All right, hello to all our future policymakers out there.
Indeed.
Today's deep dive, it's one that's, well, it's practically ripped right from your UPSC main syllabus.
Hmm.
And let's be honest, it's probably going to pop up on your prelims too.
Oh, most definitely.
We're tackling a pretty big question today.
Yeah.
Can India actually hit high-income status
By 2047.
by 2047?
Uh-huh. Their centennial year.
Their 100th year of independence. I mean,
Huge.
you all know, obviously,
Yeah.
India's on the rise, but
This is next level.
this is next level stuff.
It's not just wishful thinking, though, right? I mean, the World Bank, they actually released a whole report on this becoming a high-income economy in a generation. And it really dives deep into India's potential.
And we're going to be pulling out the juiciest bits from that report.
Absolutely.
Plus, we've got some really insightful articles from the Indian Express and the Financial Express.
Oh, very good sources.
If you guys find this deep dive helpful, please do us a favor, hit that like button.
Yeah.
Subscribe for more UPSC-focused content.
Absolutely.
And if you have any burning questions,
Yeah.
leave us a comment below.
For sure.
So to really grasp the scale of this goal,
Yeah.
we have to start with where India stands today.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it's not like they're starting from scratch. We've all seen the headlines, about India's economic growth.
Yeah, it's all anyone's been talking about.
Between 2000 and 2024, they averaged a 6.3% growth rate.
Wow.
That's consistent,
Yeah.
sustained progress, right? And get this.
Okay.
Their GDP per capita, it's tripled since 2000.
Tripled. That's incredible.
It's not just an abstract number.
Right.
It means concrete improvements in living standards for millions of people.
But
So
there's a but.
There's a big but.
It's a big but.
Becoming a high-income economy, that's a whole different league.
It's a whole different ballgame.
It's not just about, continuing on the same path. It's like sprinting the last mile of a marathon.
I like that analogy.
The World Bank actually says that India needs an 8-fold increase in GNI per capita to
Eightfold.
reach high-income status.
Eightfold.
Eightfold. Imagine, right, if you're used to, let's say, one family member having a scooter.
Oh.
Now multiple people have cars.
Oh, wow.
That's the scale of change we're talking about,
Yep.
which requires, a complete economic transformation.
So it's a monumental challenge.
For sure.
So how does the World Bank suggest India tackles this? Lay out the roadmap for us.
Okay, so they've identified 4 key pillars,
Okay.
right? Number 1, we got to boost investment.
Okay.
Number 2, we got to get more people, especially women, actively participating in the workforce.
Okay.
Number 3, we need to shift the economic structure away from agriculture.
Makes sense.
And number 4, we need to ensure balanced regional growth within India.
Okay, let's unpack those, starting with investment.
Sure.
The report throws out a big number.
It does.
Increasing investment from 33.5% of GDP
To
to a whopping 40%
by 2035.
by 2035.
That's a lot.
But where should all this money go?
That's the crucial question.
Yeah.
Obviously, infrastructure, right?
Okay.
Better roads,
Yeah.
ports, energy grids.
Okay.
But it's not just about building more. It's about building smarter, right?
Smarter. Okay.
Think renewable energy projects, high-speed rail, logistics networks that can handle a booming economy.
So it's about investing for the future
Exactly.
and not just patching up the present.
Yes, yes.
But doesn't increased investment also mean attracting foreign capital? How does that fit in?
Absolutely. Attracting foreign direct investment, or FDI, as it's often called, that's crucial.
Okay.
Not only does it bring in much-needed capital,
Yeah.
but it can also bring in cutting-edge technology and expertise that India might not have domestically.
So, for example,
Think about companies setting up research and development centers in India,
Yeah.
creating high-skill jobs,
Yeah.
and boosting innovation.
okay, so investment is key, but it's not just about throwing money at the problem. It's about strategic allocation.
Right.
What about getting more people into the workforce? The report emphasizes a target of 65% overall participation,
With women hitting 50%?
with women hitting 50%.
It's huge.
It's a huge jump,
Especially for women.
especially for women.
Yeah.
What are the implications of that?
It's potentially transformative,
Okay.
but also incredibly complex.
Okay.
Think about it.
Okay.
If millions more women join the workforce,
Yeah.
you need the infrastructure to support them.
Yeah. So things like
Childcare,
childcare, elder care,
safe.
safe and reliable transportation.
Those become huge factors.
Huge factors.
Not just economic policy.
Not just economic policy,
Yeah.
social policy.
Social policies, exactly.
Okay.
And it's not just about getting women into jobs, it's about the quality of those jobs.
Right.
Closing the wage gap and ensuring opportunities for advancement. This is where social reforms and economic policies need to work hand in hand.
So it's almost like a positive feedback loop.
Yes.
Economic growth creates the need for social change,
Yeah.
which in turn fuels further economic growth.
Precisely.
And that brings us to the third pillar, structural transformation.
Yes.
The World Bank is basically saying,
India.
India, you can't just be the back office of the world anymore. You need to move up the value chain.
You got it.
Less agriculture, more tech, and global integration.
Right?
Sounds straightforward enough.
But how does that actually play out?
Yeah, and haven't we seen this story before with other countries?
Absolutely. Look at South Korea.
Okay.
They went from like an agrarian society to a global tech powerhouse
Really?
in a few decades.
Wow.
Think about it. Once upon a time, Samsung was just a noodle company.
No way.
Now they're a global leader in electronics.
That's wild.
For India, this could mean like booming sectors in IT, renewable energy, maybe even aerospace.
And wouldn't the Make in India initiative tie into this perfectly?
Oh, absolutely.
If you're trying to attract global manufacturing, you need a skilled workforce and the infrastructure to support it.
You're connecting the dots. Exactly right.
Awesome.
But let's not forget,
Yeah,
India is a vast country
it is.
with stark regional differences.
Right.
That brings us to the fourth pillar, regional growth.
Okay.
How do you bring less developed states up to speed
Right.
while keeping the momentum going in the more developed ones?
That sounds incredibly challenging.
It is.
It's not just about replicating what works in one state. It's about understanding the unique strengths and weaknesses of each region.
Exactly. It's about targeted policies and investments.
Yeah.
Maybe one state has huge potential in agriculture,
Okay.
so you invest in cold storage and food processing to increase their exports.
Okay, so another state.
Another state might be rich in mineral resources,
Got it.
so you focus on sustainable mining practices and manufacturing.
It's like a giant puzzle where you need to find the right pieces and fit them together in a way that benefits the whole country.
It's a complex challenge, but if India can pull it off, the rewards are immense.
And I imagine this is where the UPSC brain really comes into play.
Oh, yeah.
You need policymakers who can see the big picture,
Yes,
but also understand the nuances of each region and tailor solutions accordingly.
absolutely. And speaking of nuanced challenges,
Yeah.
there's one that looms large over all of this,
Which is the-
sustainability.
Right, because you can't become a high-income economy if you're polluting your way to prosperity.
You can't. The World Bank is very clear on this.
Yeah.
India's growth needs to be green and sustainable.
Okay.
And it's not just about meeting climate targets.
Right.
It's about building a resilient economy that can withstand the shocks of climate change.
So like a...
Think drought-resistant crops,
Okay.
flood-proof infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
cities designed to conserve energy and water.
So sustainability isn't just an add-on. It's baked into every aspect of this transformation.
It has to be.
And for those of you prepping for mains, this is prime essay material.
Oh, for sure.
How does India balance its economic ambitions with environmental concerns?
That's the million-dollar question.
Or the trillion-dollar question,
Or the trillion-dollar question.
given the scale of India's economy?
Exactly.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've laid out the 4 pillars of transformation,
Uh-huh.
highlighted the need for strategic investments, emphasized the crucial role of social reforms,
Yes.
and acknowledged the importance of sustainability.
But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
There's more.
There's so much more.
No.
We haven't even delved into the specifics of how India can achieve these ambitious goals.
Okay.
The policy reforms, the political will, the potential pitfalls.
And we certainly can't forget the global context.
Oh, right.
India isn't operating in a vacuum. Global events and trends can have a huge impact on their journey.
Absolutely.
We'll be back to explore all of that in part 2 of our deep dive.
Don't go anywhere.
Stick with us.
Welcome back, everyone. In part 1, we laid out this ambitious roadmap for India to reach high income status by 2047. Now,
Now we get to zoom in.
yes, zoom in on some of the specifics,
Let's do it.
starting with that tricky third pillar,
Which was that?
structural transformation.
Right, moving away from agriculture towards a more tech-driven, globally integrated economy.
Exactly.
Sounds great in theory, but how do you actually make that happen on such a massive scale? And what are the potential pitfalls along the way?
It's definitely a complex undertaking.
Yeah.
The World Bank report, it suggests a multi-pronged approach,
Okay.
starting with education and skills development.
Makes sense.
Think about it. If you want a workforce ready for high-paying jobs in tech and advanced manufacturing,
Yeah.
you need to invest heavily in STEM education, especially for those coming from rural backgrounds.
So it's not just about creating jobs, it's about equipping people with the skills to actually fill those jobs.
Right.
It's like building a high-tech factory, but then realizing you don't have enough trained engineers to run it.
Exactly. And it's not just technical skills either.
Right.
Think about things like problem solving, critical thinking, creativity.
Soft skills.
Soft skills. Those are the skills that will be in high demand in a rapidly changing global economy.
This makes me think about the whole debate around rote learning versus developing critical thinking in the Indian education system. Seems like a pretty relevant discussion for UPSC aspirants to be having.
Absolutely. The World Bank also highlights the importance of creating a business environment that encourages innovation and entrepreneurship. This means cutting red tape, simplifying regulations, and providing incentives for startups to invest in research and development.
So basically making it easier to do business in India,
Yes.
especially for young, innovative companies.
Yes, we've seen how bureaucratic hurdles can stifle innovation. And that's the last thing India needs if they want to become a global leader in tech.
Okay, so that's getting rid of red tape. What else?
The third piece of this structural transformation puzzle is global integration.
Okay.
This means improving infrastructure,
Like
ports, airports, logistics networks.
to make it easier
To make it easier for businesses to export their goods and services.
That's also about trade deals, right?
Yes.
Ensuring that Indian businesses have access to global markets on favorable terms.
You're absolutely right.
Now, all this sounds great on paper, but there's always a but.
There are potential pitfalls to watch out for.
Such as?
One major challenge is ensuring that the benefits of this structural transformation are shared equitably.
That's a crucial point.
It is.
You don't want to create a situation where, like, a few urban centers are thriving while rural areas get left behind.
Right, that could lead to social unrest and inequality.
Yeah, which would obviously undermine the whole project.
Exactly. Another potential pitfall is over-reliance on specific sectors or industries.
Okay.
Remember the global chip shortage a few years ago?
Yeah, I do.
It exposed the vulnerability of economies that are too dependent on a single source for critical components.
So diversification is key.
It is.
India needs to develop a diverse and resilient economy that can withstand shocks and adapt to changing global trends.
Right. It's like investing in a portfolio of stocks.
Right.
You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Now let's move on to the fourth pillar,
Which is?
regional growth.
Right. As we discussed earlier, India is a vast and diverse country with, like, significant development disparities between states.
It is.
How can policymakers address this challenge and ensure that all regions benefit from this economic transformation?
That seems like a massive undertaking.
It does.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
No.
You need to tailor policies and investments to the specific needs and potential of each region.
Okay, so how would you even begin to do that?
It starts with identifying the unique strengths of each region and leveraging those strengths.
Okay.
For instance, some states might be agricultural powerhouses.
Okay.
So you invest in, modernizing farming practices,
Okay.
improving infrastructure for storage and transportation, and developing food processing industries.
While other states might have a strong base in manufacturing.
Right. So you encourage them to, move up the value chain, adopt advanced technologies, and maybe even become hubs for specific industries.
So it's about creating, like, a network of specialized economic clusters across the country,
Yes.
each contributing to India's overall growth.
It's almost like a symphony orchestra, where each instrument plays a distinct role, but together they create a harmonious and powerful sound.
I like that analogy.
And just like an orchestra needs a conductor,
Right.
India needs strong leadership and coordination to ensure that all regions are playing in sync and working towards a common goal.
Speaking of leadership, the World Bank report doesn't just lay out these grand pillars. It also gets into specific policy recommendations. They highlight 4 key areas: encouraging entrepreneurship, reforming the financial sector, promoting urbanization, and further liberalizing trade and investment.
A lot.
It is. Let's dive into those, starting with entrepreneurship.
Okay. The report stresses the importance of fostering a dynamic and innovative entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Okay.
This involves a range of policy measures, starting with simplifying the process of starting and running a business.
So less bureaucracy, faster approvals, and a more business-friendly regulatory environment.
Yes.
I imagine this is especially important for attracting young entrepreneurs who are often put off by, complicated procedures.
Exactly. It also involves providing support for startups and small businesses through things like incubators, mentorship programs, and access to funding.
Think about it. If you're a young person with a great idea,
Mhm.
you need more than just passion.
You need guidance, resources, and a network of support to turn that idea into a successful business.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about intellectual property protection.
Right.
Strong IP laws are crucial for encouraging innovation, as they give entrepreneurs the confidence to invest in research and development knowing their ideas are protected.
Exactly.
This makes me think about India's growing reputation as a hub for software development and IT outsourcing.
Right.
To really move up the value chain, they need to transition from being like coders for hire to developing their own innovative products and services.
That's a great point. Now let's shift our focus to financial sector reforms.
Go.
The World Bank emphasizes the need to deepen and broaden access to finance, particularly for individuals and small businesses.
What does that entail?
Well, for starters, it means expanding access to credit.
Okay.
Think about microfinance institutions, community banks, and other innovative ways to reach people who traditionally haven't had access to formal financial services.
So not just loans, but things like insurance, investment products, and even like crowdfunding platforms.
Exactly.
A healthy financial sector is like the circulatory system of an economy. It needs to be efficient and inclusive to ensure that capital flows to where it's needed most.
A great analogy. Now, let's talk about urbanization.
Okay.
The World Bank sees urbanization as a key driver of economic growth,
Right.
but it also emphasizes the need for sustainable urbanization.
This is where things get really interesting.
It does.
India's cities are already bursting at the seams,
They are.
and millions more are expected to migrate from rural areas in the coming decades.
Millions.
How do you manage that kind of growth while also ensuring that cities are like livable and sustainable?
That's the billion rupee question, isn't it? It requires a holistic approach that takes into account everything from housing and transportation to waste management and pollution control.
And let's not forget about climate change. Indian cities are already experiencing the effects of climate change, like heat waves, floods, and water shortages.
Yes, so you need to build resilience into the urban fabric.
Right. Think about things like green buildings, efficient public transportation systems, and open green spaces that can help mitigate the effects of climate change.
Absolutely. And of course, it all has to be done in a way that's inclusive and equitable.
Right, so that everyone benefits from the prosperity of the city, not just a select few.
Exactly. This brings us to our final policy area, trade and investment liberalization.
Okay.
The World Bank advocates for further reducing barriers to trade and investment.
What are some specific steps India could take in this area?
It could involve negotiating new free trade agreements, reducing tariffs and non-tariff barriers, and streamlining customs procedures to make it easier for businesses to import and export goods.
It also means creating a more welcoming environment for foreign direct investment by simplifying regulations, providing tax incentives, and ensuring a level playing field for both domestic and foreign companies.
Precisely. Increased trade and investment can bring in capital, technology, and expertise that can help accelerate India's economic growth.
Right. But it's also important to remember that liberalization needs to be done in a way that benefits all segments of society, not just a select few.
For sure.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where you're open to global opportunities, but also protecting domestic industries and workers, especially those who might be vulnerable to increased competition from imports.
Exactly. It's about striking that delicate balance between global integration and national interest.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've explored the complexities of structural transformation, delved into the specifics of policy reforms, and highlighted the importance of equitable and sustainable development.
We've also touched on the potential pitfalls that India needs to be aware of as it navigates this ambitious journey.
But there's one more crucial piece of the puzzle that we haven't discussed yet.
the global context.
All right, because India's economic transformation isn't happening in a vacuum.
Nope.
Global events and trends can have a profound impact on their trajectory.
Absolutely.
We'll be back in part 3 to explore that global context and see how India can position itself to thrive in an increasingly complex and interconnected world.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into India's high-income aspirations.
Are in the end game now?
We've covered, the internal challenges, the policy roadmap.
Right.
But as any good UPSC aspirant knows, you can't really analyze India without considering those global forces at play.
It's like, it's like trying to predict the weather without looking at the larger climate patterns.
Right.
India's economic journey, it's going to be heavily influenced by what's happening in the rest of the world.
Okay, so let's put on our, global analyst hats for a second.
Let's do it.
What are some of the big trends that could impact India's path to high-income status?
Well, one that immediately comes to mind is the rise of automation and artificial intelligence. This is kind of a double-edged sword for India.
How so?
Well, on the one hand, AI could boost productivity and efficiency across various sectors.
Okay.
From manufacturing to healthcare, right?
Yeah, but on the other hand, it could lead to job displacement.
Exactly.
Particularly for low-skilled workers.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you balance those competing forces?
That's the challenge, and it's not unique to India.
Right.
Countries around the world are grappling with this.
Yeah.
The key is to invest heavily in education and skills development,
Okay.
particularly in areas that require, creativity, critical thinking, and adaptability.
Right, because those are
Just skills that are harder to automate.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's about preparing the workforce for the jobs of the future, not the jobs of the past.
And it's about creating a social safety net to support those who might be displaced by automation.
Absolutely. It's about embracing the potential of AI while also mitigating the risks. Another major global trend is the increasing focus on sustainability and climate change.
And this is an area where India could really shine, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have the potential to become a leader in green technology and renewable energy.
Absolutely. Think about India's vast solar energy potential, their expertise in wind power, their growing electric vehicle market.
I mean, these are all areas where India could
not only address its own climate goals, but also become a global exporter of green solutions.
like turning a challenge into an opportunity.
Exactly.
And wouldn't that also give India more diplomatic leverage on the global stage?
Certainly, a country that's seen as a leader in climate action, they have a stronger voice in international forums.
For sure.
Now, let's not forget about geopolitical risks, right?
Oh, of course.
The world is becoming increasingly multipolar with shifting alliances and power dynamics.
So how does India navigate this complex landscape?
Well, this is where strategic diplomacy and strong partnerships become crucial.
Yeah.
India needs to maintain good relations with major powers, while also forging alliances with, like-minded countries.
Especially in their own region.
Particularly in their own region.
Right.
Exactly. Think about organizations like the Quad, the BRICS, and ASEAN.
Okay.
These are platforms where India can exert its influence and shape the global agenda in a way that benefits its own interests.
So it's about being a player,
not a pawn.
Not a pawn in the global chess game.
Exactly.
And it's about understanding the interconnectedness of economic, political, and security issues.
Absolutely. A successful foreign policy strategy is one that recognizes those connections and uses them to India's advantage.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
We have.
And I want to emphasize that this is just the beginning of your exploration.
It really is.
I hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and equipped you with the knowledge
and the context.
And the context to continue to explore this complex issue.
We encourage you to dig deeper, to research further, and to really engage with these ideas.
Now, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of your understanding.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.